Okay, we are on air. So we're going to start the Yerushalmi Megillah. And of course, as you know, the Yerushalmi starts on Daf Aleph, and we're starting on Daf Aleph, Amud Aleph. Megillah Nikres. Megillah is read on any one of those days, the 11th, the 12th, the 13th, the 14th, or the 15th day of Adar. Not more, not less, not before that, and not more, not afterwards. Cities which are walled from the time of Yerushalmi Megillah, Korin, they read Chamisha, so on the 15th. Villages and large cities, Korin Bar Basar, to be on the 14th. Except that the villages have the right to read earlier on the day of the market, whenever the market day is, starting on the 11th. Okay, says the Gemara, Rabbi Elah, Shimon Bar Ba, B'Shem Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Elah very often Rabbi Elah very often, oh, sorry, somebody asked in the invitation now, I guess he didn't get it. Just a second. Just 1 second. Okay. Okay. So Rabbi Elah is very often appears in the Yerushalmi as Rabbi Lo, Lamed Aleph. So in the Bavli appears as Rabbi Elah. So in the Yerushalmi that causes some confusion sometimes, because sometimes you read Lo as if it's low, but here it helps us by saying Rabbi Elah. So Rabbi Elah and Shim Bar Ba b'Shem Rabbi Yochanan, Ksiv, they learned our Mishnah, is based on L'Kayem B'Smei Purim Eila B'Zmaneim. The pasuk says that you fulfill the days of Purim, these days of Purim, B'Zmaneihem. Matam Ulomer B'Zmaneihem. What does it mean? In their day, in their times. So Rabbi Yoina, Rabbi Yoisa both had interpretations of this. Rabbi Yoina Marlitin Lem Zmanim Acherim. Given other times besides Yudal and Tezvah, which are mentioned explicitly in the Megillah. Rabbi Yosa Omer Zmanim Shekavu Lohem Chachamim. The times which Chachamim gave to them. Now the question is, what does that mean? Zmanim Shechachamim. Who else is making these times other than the Chachamim? So we have here a difference between the Korban Eda and the Pnei Moshe, how to learn this line. The Korban Eda says, Zmanim Shekavlim Chachamim, Ve'ed Zmanim D'Tam Masnisim. The times it says in our Mishnah. This is what it means to say. Zmanim Harbei Tiklim Chachamim. The Chachamim made for them many times. V'lav D'Motzu Smach Min HaMegillah, and not that they found something to rely upon the Megillah. From the Torah Lo Sif L'Shanos Hazmanim, that they can add and change the times Yudal and the Tezvav, the original times the 14th and 15th. The subsequent bases do not have the power to change them. No later basin can annul or reverse the words of a previous basin. I can't go to minimum chachma of minyan, unless it's greater than it in wisdom and in number of sages, age of sages, depending what minyan means. So he says, the Korban Eda is saying that Zman means that we need to have an integral source for this in the Megillah. Otherwise, we can't derive other days, because the initial days which Chachamim gave, those should be the days forever and ever. And the initial days would be down to Tezvav, unless there's a source in the Megillah. That's that there are additional days we can't institute other days. So the Pnei Moshe says, he says here, he says, Rabbi Yossi Kamar, Rabbi Yossi. So Pligi B'Hol, Rabbi Yonah Kosa Batzmo, Ramesha Tikulam B'Tchila Od Zmanim Acherim. Rabbi Yonah, the pasuk itself tells us that they initially instituted other times. Kazmanim Amfurish B'Kosav, like the times mentioned pasuk. Yossi Kamar Kamar Shakosav Nitam Lidrosh LaChachamim. Pasuk given to Darshan, and they made the times not mefurash. So according to him, when it says it wasn't the original generation. It wasn't part of the Ikar Takara. But the Megillah was given with this drasha built into it. I assume Mordechai and Esther built it in. Perhaps it was Beruach HaKodesh, perhaps it was delivered, but it was built into Megillah Esther that later on Chachamim could be covered. Not the Chachamim necessarily in that generation. That generation, perhaps it's only you down this above, unlike the Korban Eda. But later on, Chachamim were able to institute because they found a smach in the Megillah. And the Ritbaz, here, if you take a look at the Ritbaz, which is giving an overview of who's who. The Korban Eda and Pnei Moshe both lived in the 1700s. Korban Eda was a Rav in Germany, and the Pnei Moshe was a Rav in Lithuania. Pnei Moshe was actually, at one point, the Groz Rebbe. As well known, the Groz only gave cover to very few Rebbeim, and among them was the Pnei Moshe. And the Ritbaz was, of course, in the 20th century, early 20th century, late 19th or 20th. He was a Rav in Chicago. The mafia ran him out of town because of a fight of the Shechita. Later on, when he wrote this Perush, he was in Tzfas. When he published Perush, he was in Tzfas. So the Ritbaz actually was alive when the Vilna Yerushalmi was published, and he writes, Rabbi Yonah, Rabbi Yosef, Rabbi Yonah Amar, Litam Zmanim Acherim, Rabbi Yosef Zman Shkov L'Chachamim, Kiperush Pnei Moshe. He agrees with Pnei Moshe. The Mechleku im hu takona down chicken as a gdoila. The machlek is whether the takona is a bunch of gdoila shem at batzmam tikkun alef yubeis or the muscle chachamim hiskilu as manazeh. So what the way Ritbaz is learning, the people who made the Megillah initially, the people who instituted the Megillah, were on chicken as a gdoila. And according to Rabbi Yonah, they were the ones who actually instituted the times other than you down Tesvav. They instituted you Aleph Yud Beis Gimel, etc. According to the other Mefar, according to Rabbi Yosef, no, it was later Chachamim, not down Shekinah Sagdola. They did it on the basis of this drasha which they found, which allowed them to do it. But it was not the original Shekinah Sagdola. It was subsequently that this was enacted to have this these other days. So, is there a great nafkamina? Not la halacha, but there's nafkamina in methodology. Nafkamina is what later Chachamim were allowed to do in terms of, so to speak, expanding, or let's say in this case even uprooting, because you change it from one day to another day, that's uprooting an earlier Takonas Chazal. Are they allowed to do it or not? And if they're allowed to do it on one basis. So, since from the Korban Eda, they're not allowed to do it. Once an earlier basin makes a takana, a later basin cannot expand or change age takana unless there is an explicit drasha, not explicit drasha, unless there's an explicit source in the original takana, kind of like a escape hatch, which allows them to do it. According to the Pnei Moshe and Ritbaz, it's not that way. The Pnei Moshe and Ritbaz, you don't need to have that escape hatch as long as there's a drasha you can make. And again, we don't necessarily know that drasha was deliberately put there, but since it's there, we're able to use that in order to expand what the parameters are of Mikra Megillah. Okay, so in any event, as I said, there's no Menafkin La'alocha, but Veilheim, these are the days which Chacham Rekoveh. Back to the Gemara. Yud Aleph, Yud Beis, Yud Gimel, Yud Dalet, Tesvav. So says the Gemara, Einu Ela Yud Vav, Yud Zayin. Maybe it also goes to 16th, 17th. Rabbi Avav B'Shem Eliezer says, it should be V'lo Yavor. The Gilin Ephraim and others make this tikkun here, which is because the pasuk says V'lo Yavor. That is in the Bavli too. You cannot go past Yudal Tezvav. And the second should say lo Yavor V'lo Yavor. Right. So this is Rabbi Yitzchak Bar Nachman B'Shem Shmuel Lo Yavor V'lo Yavor. So again, it is the same idea, just perhaps changing around the words, but it doesn't matter. The only machlokes is who actually said this. But Lo Yavor means you can't pass Yudal and Tesvav. Everybody agrees, therefore, that Yud Vav and Yud Zayin are not in the picture. Yitzchak Bar Nachman B'Shem Shmuel said, I'm sorry, Oh, Ein El Shiva Siri. So, okay, so go earlier, the 9th to 10th. So why is the beginning of Yud Aleph? So Shmuel Menachem said Yomim Ein Ksivkan Ela Kayomim. Now in the Bavli there's a shita that called Chodesh Kulo Kosher Kriyas Megillah, right? From the beginning of the month. But here he says no, you only have days like the days. So it doesn't mean days like the days. Ten yomim connected yomim. Days corresponding to days. So you have 2 days, you down this month. So you can add 2 days, you down for your base. Now, of course, Chavis question is, hey, what about your gimel? We're coming there. But you can add 2 days to the 2 days that you possess. Okay? So you can add echad asar, shnei asar, can add abba asar, v'chamisha asar. So says Gemara, well, who says you go then to your aleph? O shnei asar, shlosha asar, can add abba asar, v'chamisha asar. Maybe only you get your base, your gimel. How do you know you get your alpha, your base? So Rabbi Cheba said, Yom Shlosha Asar, Yom Milchama Hoya. V'umochiach al atzmo. Right? So it's the day of the war, right? And therefore, it's since that's the case, the Yerushalmi says, it proves on itself she'ein bonicha, that there was no respite. So wait a minute, it's very strange. It's choppy, right? It's a lot of times Yerushalmi like that. Maybe first you say your gimel is Yom HaChamas, which sounds like we're going to say that it's the day in which you can read because it was the day of the war. But no, says Yerushalmi. No. There's a transition missing here. That's on the contrary. If it's the day of the war, you shouldn't be allowed to read on that day because it's not a day of Nochu Bohem HaYehudim. You read the Megillah on a day which they rested because that's when they made the whole Simcha. So therefore, on the contrary, the reason it's Yom Milchama is a reason why it should be a day where you can't read the Megillah, right? So that's the Yerushalmi says Me'ata Ayikrubo. Don't be able to read any of Gimel. So the Pnei Moshe says, the third last line of Pnei Moshe, Me'ata Lo Yabon Micha, since there was no respite on the day, Ayikrubo, right? So then the Yerushalmi says a fascinating answer. So Lefanov Achrav Koirin Uboeno Koirin. Maybe this is the pshat. It's a sandwich between days of Kriya. This is as far as not the Bavli at all. This says the sandwich between days of Kriya. Pasnish. It's not appropriate that it should be a day of Kriya. If your base is the day you can read, and your Dalit is a day you can read, so then why shouldn't also your Gimel be a day you can read? Maybe it's because it comes between 2 days of Simcha, so therefore it's appropriate that it should be a day of Simcha, and therefore it's included. So we learned Yud base from Yomim Kayomim. And then Yud Gimel is because it schlepped along because it's in the sandwich in the middle. O Eino Ella, turning out to Alpha base, O Eina Chi Vasiri. So maybe it says, well, you know what? Maybe that's not the case. Maybe let's say Chi Vasiri, the 9th and the 10th. Kayomim, it's like the days. Yomim Shein Tzmuchin Yomim. Says more, no. It can't be. First of all, I probably did not punctuate that with enough emphasis. Ella Chi Vasiri. So, look, you just made me this problem about your Gimel. But your Gimel is a problem because maybe the whole svara that it's okay is because it's sandwiched between the 2 other days. So, you know what? I have a better answer for you. Let's say the 9th and the 10th are the extra 2 days. Yomim Kayomim. And then we won't read at all on Yud Aleph, Yud Beis, Yud Gimel. There's not going to be any sandwich problems, right? Just make the 9th and the 10th. So again, this is all straight Yerushalmi, no Bavli. So the Yerushalmi says, no. Kayomim, Yomim Shein Smuchim Yomim. The 2 days you're adding on have to be 2 days which are adjacent to the 2 days that you already have. So it means Yud Aleph, Yud Beis. So wait a second. Of course, again, we come back to Bram. So what about you, Gimel? So, but not yet. So in Yom Smuchim Ein Ela Shisha Asar V'Shiva Asar. Let it be the 16th, 17th again. Says that you can't do. Dam Rabbi Avo, but Shem Rabbi Lazar, Rabbi Lazar, V'lo Yavor, Lo Yavor, V'lo Yavor. Can't pass the days 14 and 15. But Nachum Shem Yitzhak Shmuel said Lo Yavor. So therefore that can't be. Okay. Now, actually, I said it before. It's a Bavli. I'm sorry, it was Yerushalmi. Says Tani b'Shem Rabbi Nosson. Now, it seems that Rabbi Nosson is coming to tell us that an answer to the question before, right? That how do we know that you can the days are earlier? So we know they have from L'Yavor. But how do we know that you can extend it backwards? Not necessarily because of Kayomim, but because my timer, so the month which changed them from Yogurt to Simcha. I made a mistake before, I was confused, I'm sorry. It's not the Bali to Yerushalmi. So the Chodesh Neba Yogurt to Simcha means, in theory, you can read from Rosh Chodesh. So in the back of the Yerushalmi, in most Masechtas, there's a parish called the Torah and Shul Rishonim. Torah and Shul Rishonim means that's what the Rishonim said on the Yerushalmi. So in the Torah and Shul Rishonim, it says here that they learned in the Yerushalmi that specifically for Hochei Drachim. The Rishonim had a Girsa that specifically for Hochei... Second. Lost my connection. They had... sorry, my computer's going a little bit awry here. Second. Oops, did I lose this? I lost my connection here. Oh, there you are. Okay, got it back. Okay, so not sure what happened here. It's a different screen. Just I can move this over. Anyway, so the Yerushalmi says that that Chodesh Megillah. So the Rishonim bring down that specifically for the Hochei Drachim. In the Yerushalmi itself, it doesn't say that. That happens a lot. Find a lot that in the Yerushalmi there are cases where the Rishonim or Rishonim would have Girsos in Yerushalmi which we don't have. So this is one of the examples of it where they had a Girsa which we don't have, and as we know, it's entirely possible they had an entire Seder Kachim, which we don't have. So it's not uncommon that you find them in Yerushalmi. So Rabbi Chaim said, "Ubilvad im nekreim ad chamishasar." Damar Rav b'shem Elazar lo yavor. Rabbi Baranach b'shem Shlosa lo yavor. Okay, now all that never resolves us properly. Why it's specifically Yud Aleph and Yud Beis, right? And not previous to that, especially once we say Kol Chodesh Kosher Kriyas Megillah. So it sounds like that we don't have any, according to the Yerushalmi, we don't have any reconciliation unless we say that these were Zmanim Shekavalem Chachamim to begin with, according to the Anamandam or Rabbi Yoina. We don't have any specific derivation to know that it was specifically these days and not the entire month from Rosh Chodesh. Unless you say, like those Rishonim, that was only for Ovei Drachim, then we don't have a source to say it's specifically for Ovei Drachim, and then it would apply to everybody, that anybody can read from the beginning of the month with a bracha, according to the Yerushalmi. Again, not according to the first man, like Rabbi Yoina, who said this part of initial takana was Yud Aleph, Yud Beis, Yud Gimel, Yud Aleph, Tes Vav. But according to Rabbi Yoisa, we're not left with a specific guideline which tells us that it would only be from Yud Aleph and not prior to that. But we go on to another topic that doesn't bother the Yerushalmi. So it says the Yerushalmi, Hadat Amar Kriyas Megillah. That's only for Kriyas Megillah. Avolasus Ud Suda. Einan Osin Ella Barbasa v'Chamisha. Sorry. You can only make the Suda on the 14th and on the 15th. You can't make the Suda earlier. Even the Mikra Megillah you can make earlier, but the Suda itself cannot be earlier. The Suda itself can only be on the 14th and the 15th. And they mechalkim lanim ela ba'asar b'chamisha asar, because ain't a name shall nim to lios ela ba'asar chamisha asar. So that they only can give. We only give out the money, the matanos and the v'yonim on 14 and 15, because that's when the aniyim expect that. So the Korban has an interesting shot here. It says that the collection can be on the day which you read it, on Yud Beis Gimel, but the distribution has to be pushed off you down to Zvav. The Amudei Yerushalayim, which is a commentary in the bottom, says that brings down from the Ravid that the Ravid holds that there is a mistake altogether in the Yerushalmi here. He says, if you take a look at the Amudei Yerushalayim on the bottom left, it says, "Ayin basogas a Ravid abal amor." The The Nero the Toe Sophie by Yerushalmi. So I'm saying Yerushalmi, it's Tzarech B'zman Hazeh, and Kohen Ben Mechalkin El B'Yudalot as well. Sheni Name Shanim, Bayin Sham Mashpir Shalzeh. The Nelam Zeh Me'akar B'Edim Farshim. Says that that's obviously, it's a pretty obscure Ravid. I guess it's the way they missed it. But the Ravid is saying that there's a mistake here. There's a toast, and this is something which we do very often. Even Nachronim, they say the mistakes in the Yerushalmi. And here he's saying that what the Yerushalmi is saying is Bizman Hazeh. We don't, not just Avalasoy Suda, like we say, but rather Bizman Hazeh, you only read on Abasar B'Chamishasar, and you only Malchal Kanim on Abasar B'Chamishasar. Okay, but that's not the simple Shah of Yerushalmi. Obviously, the simple Shah of Yerushalmi is that you can divide between the two. So, and Yerushalmi, in fact, says, view A Likriya of A Lusuda. Now, it sounds like that's a statement. That's what we just said. These are days of Kriya, and these are days of Suda, right? So the Ridbaz says, you have to take a Ridbaz, Perish the Yomim Halalu, Hayudal V'Tesvav, Yudafku L'Suda, Lazmanim HaKoidmim, Yulakriya. Shum Dal Suda K'si Mefurash L'Shosa, Samim Mishta V'Simcha. Al-Korla Kain Havi Yomi Al-Suda. Al-Kriya, Hu Miyuchad, Zmanim HaKoidmim. Right? Maybe we'll say that it's a whole different perspective on the Megillah, on Purim. Maybe Purim is two different parts. There's the Kriya, which comes to earlier, and there's the Suda, which comes later. Who says they're associated? Maybe Kriya is Yud Aleph, Yud Beis, Yud Gimel, and Suda is Yud Aleph, Tes Vav. You know, it'd be great. We have a very long and extensive Yom Tov. It'd be a wonderful thing, right? So, and that the Yerushalmi answers going back to the text. Rabbi Chelbo, Rabbi Chuna b'Shem Rab, Vayom El Nizkorim v'Nasim, Nizkorim b'Kriya v'Nasim b'Suda. So the Havamina is fascinating. The Havamina is they could have days of Kriya separate from days of Suda, and that would always be like that. Yeah, you know, but the Maskana is no. We have a special drasha in Nikroim and Asim that the Kriya and Asiya are linked. Now Zos Omeres, Yerushalmi comes up with this Gavaldig Chiddush, Zosam, which we already are leading up to since Amud Aleph. Zos Omeres Megillas Esther Nitnol Hidarish. Because Esther can be darshan. Now, again, there's a theological issue here. The theological question is, was this something which was initially embedded by Mordechai and Esther in the Megillah, all these drashas, or is this something which, because that's Zurin Baruch HaKodesh, and it's part of Kisvei HaKodesh, it doesn't matter whether they had it in mind, and they might not have had it in mind. It's given over to Darshan because it is part of Kisvei HaKodesh, and Kisvei HaKodesh are given over to Darshan. And so, and I'm not even sure, to tell you the truth, that necessarily all Kisvei HaKodesh are given over to Darshan the same way. We know Megillah Esther has special qualities. Megillah Esther tzricha sirtut kamita shel. It's got to have sirtut. It's got to have the lines etched into it. Just like even the Torah itself, it's a question whether it's required, not required. But it has very stringent parameters, more than other Kisvei HaKodesh. So therefore, it's possible that Megillah Esther has a unique quality, like Torah Shebiksav, that it can be given this quality, and that's what Yerushalmi goes on to say. Rabbi Chelba, Rabbi Yasser, B'Shem Rabbi Lazar, Nema Kan Divrei Shalom v'Emes. It says here in Megillah, this is totally not in the Bavli, or it says in the Megillah, Divrei Shalom v'Emes. Nema Halon Emes Knei Bal Timkor. Right? This is Emes. It says acquire truth and don't sell it. Harehi Kamito Shel Torah. Now here, the Torah Rishonim says, obviously, Amita Shatar in the Yerushalmi does not mean what it means in the Bavli. In the Bavli, when it says Megillah Tzricha Sirtut Kamita Shel Torah, that's talking. There, Amita Shatar refers to mezuzah, because the Sefer Torah itself does not require sirtut. The sirtut we do, the etching we do in the Sefer Torah, is a hitter. It's not mandatory. Mezuzah, which is called Amita Shel Torah, and when it says that Megillah needs a sirtut, it has to have lines etched mandatorily. Kamito Shel Torah, that is like the mezuzah. But here, in the Yerushalmi is saying that Megillah is on the level of Amito Shel Torah, just like Amito Shel Torah has the capacity to be darshan, so to Megillah Esther has the capacity to be darshan. Okay? So that's what you say here. Again, the special link. Now, ma zu tzricha sirtut, ab zu tzricha sirtut, that's problematic, right? Because it's clear the sirtut only applies to the mezuzah. So it could be, again, Yerushalmi is choppy. Could be going back and forth. from the mezuzah to Sefer Torah. Could be the Yerushalmi argues on the Bavli. Yerushalmi holds the Sefer Torah itself requires shiur too. It's quite possible that when the Bavli means a mezuzah, here it means Sefer Torah. But the main point is mazuni no lidoresh, abzuni no lidoresh. Okay. Rabbi Yirmiyah b'shem Rabbi Shmuel bar Yitzchak, Megillah shemasa Shmuel LeDavid. Now, what Megillah did Shmuel give to David? So, if you look at the motion, this third wide line, he says, Megillah shemasa Shmuel LeDavid, shekaseh b'tavnis beis hamikdash, shemasara Kadosh Baruch Hu l'Moshe, Moshe l'Yeshua, Shmuel came as King Shmuel masara LeDavid, Masa David l'Shlomo, but no, Amalei Yaakov b'ksav miyad Hashem alai yiskil. So we actually learn halachas from that in Masechah Sukkah that they weren't allowed to add, to add the balcony to the Ezras Nashim unless they found a special drasha to allow building on the balcony and the Ezras to the Ezras Nashim. So to be the Ezras Nashim. So in any event, that Megillah, it says there's a pasuk in Shmuel. It says that David went one night to Ramah to Shmuel, and Chazal say that night in Ramah they were learning together how to build the Beis Hamikdash. So that Megillah, which was given to David, that also can be expounded in Torah. And that's why in Masechah Sukkah we expounded in order to tell us the halacha that you can add on, how you know you can add on a mechitza, and we learn it out however we learn it out. But that means that there are other things. I don't know if it's therefore called Megillah for the same reason. I don't think so, because we have other Chamesh Megillos. But in any event, that is the another entity which we can darshan expound as if it's the Chamesh Chumshei Torah. My time HaKol B'Sav, Zu HaMasoros Miyad Hashem, Zu Ruach HaKodesh Olai Hiskil. He says, let's see the name Moshe again. Zu Masoros Malei V'Chaser Kri Uksiv. As Malei V'Chaser Kri Uksiv Lo Teim Hachi Lo Masor B'Ksav Lo Ba'Peh. So Shmuel gave it to David. He gave it with, again, we don't have this Megillah. It had Malei V'Chaser Kri Uksiv and all sorts of aspects to it, which were the integral to darshaning. And Zu Ruach HaKodesh Yesh B'Dvarim Musutarim Al Pi Soy. It's got in things. Allah skill la skill mashmalavin davar talk davar u'shmaim nashni olidarish. So where the Yerushalmi seems to come out is that Shmuel is telling David, or David is telling over to Shlomo in the name of Shmuel, that this has stuff in it. This Megillah I'm giving you, the blueprint of Beis Hamikdash, has stuff in it which even I don't know. It was put there, was embedded there for somebody to find out later on, and therefore it has Kri Uksiv Ruach HaKodesh Mesoros, which it's up to you in later generations to determine how to darshan that. And that is the same thing would be true then about Megillas Esther. That it was not necessarily embedded by Mordechai Esther deliberately. It was something which, since Ruach HaKodesh, it has these qualities of being able to be darshaned later on. I just saw yesterday, Shamshon Astropolier says that says in the Megillah, the Megillah has a big ches and a big tov. So the Samshon Australia says those Megillah because the Gzer of Haman did not take place at the time of Megillah Esther, but took place at the time of Tachtatat, the time of the Chmielnicki massacres in 1648 and 1649. So therefore, things are there to darshan which they couldn't have known. We all know the famous one about the small tough Shin and Zion, Purim Fest 1947. Which the Aseret Bnei Haman. So these are all things which Mordechai and Esther didn't necessarily know, but Ruach HaKodesh put into the Megillah. Okay, let's go on. Rabbi Abai v'lo malena amrin. Why don't we say, it's like in Bavi would be lama leis onon amrin. Why don't we say the tamnis kol asher yab ruach imo. So Rabbi Yirmiyah said that let's see the Bnei Moshe. V'lama leis anon dosh ma'akrav v'tavnis. The simi kami kod ha'kol b'ksav. Shoysa b'ruach ha'kodesh. V'gam sham b'furish b'ruach. So there's a different. Why we darshan this other pasuk would tell us that it was in ruach ha'kodesh, because it says tavnis kol shaya b'ruach imo, which sounds like it's explicitly ruach ha'kodesh, and this is a pasuk again which refers to Tam Megillah which Shmuel gave to David. No, Ramana Mal Baruach Baruch Piv. That Ruach is not the same thing. Rabbi Yirmiyah was Rabbi Yirmiyah's father, by the way. So Ramana says, Me'al Leikel Mishma, the Bnei Moshe. Melech lemishma. Dikla meimar mal baruch piv shvir David lo David ba peh mashlo maslo b'ksav. Below baruch hakodesh lachach itzrich miyad Hashem. So that's why we need to learn specifically from the words miyad Hashem Allah His skill, because from the words ruach in the time of Yisroel ruach, we wouldn't learn that because it could be again that is the Baal Peh which David gave to Shlomo along with the Megillah. So therefore, we have to learn from Miyad Hashem Allah His skill that Megillah was also written Beruach HaKodesh. Okay, we got a little bit of a late start today, so I'm just going to go try and get to the bottom of the Amud, and then we'll stop. So Krachem Mukafim Yimosi Yeshua ben Nun Krem Chamisha Asar. The cities which are walled from the days of Yeshua ben Nun read on the 15th. Okay? Rabbi Simon Shem Rishon Levi Chok covered Eretz Yisrael. Why is it from the days of Yeshua? Because they covered the Eretz Yisrael. Shows the Chareva Bais in Yom, which was in a state of ruination during the days of Megillah Esther. The Torah was Yeshua ben Nun. And therefore they didn't go by the days of Achashverosh, went by the days of Yehoshua. So ask Gemara V'Yikru Hakol B'Chamisha Asar, meaning that even cities which are just surrounded with walls from the days of Shushan, why? So include, say, from the days of Shua and to the days of Shushan, anybody who had a wall during that time reads on Tezvav. Why did you make it specific from Yeshua and exclude the time of Shushan, the time of the miracle itself? So Rabbi Avo Darash Yeshiva, my Yeshiva Shneim Alham Yemos Yeshua ben Nun. So he says, just like the Yeshiva, which it says, if you look at Bnei Moshe, B'Melachim B'nei Yisrael Yoshvim Bar Yehuda, that's in the days of Yeshua ben Nun. If that for Yeshiva Shneimar Kan, Megillah Al Ken Yedim Prozim Yeshvim Bar Eprazos Mos Yeshua. Okay, me Prozim me Mos Yeshua Dikroim Prozim Shmamid Av Mukavim Shu Mukavim me Mos Yeshua. So without so he says it's a Yerushalmi. Now again, it's only because Megillah Nitno the Dorish. I assume we can make such a Yerushalmi. Usually don't make Yerushalmi from Malachim and from two Svarim and Kisvei HaKodesh in Nevi'im, but again, because the Megillah need no Lidarish, so therefore we dash it, and say the yeshiva goes by Yeshiva of Yeshua ben Nun. Okay, so the now the Gemara asks, Yikra Kobi Dalid. Now this is a big question to be whether we have this Girsa here. So the Gilin Ephraim, who's my favorite Pirush on the Yerushalmi, in some sectors he appears on the blot. Here he doesn't appear on the blot; he appears in the back of the Gemara. So Gilin Ephraim says that we don't read this question Yikra Kobi Dalid. Because the answer which Rabbi Yehuda Pazi goes is about to give is not, and we're not going to answer that question. It's going to answer the question which I said before. Let everybody read on Tezvav. Okay, Rabbi Yehuda Pazi's darshe praze prazos nemar kan prazos v'nemar halon levam area prozimo meod. Harbe mode. Ma prazi shnemar alon mos Yeshua ben Nun. Ma prazi shnemar kamni mos Yeshua ben Nun. And therefore, since the process David Yeshua ben Nun, so therefore the mukafos also been David Yeshua ben Nun. So this that's why it has Kobi Udal. There is a way to make it work out, but for our purposes today, I don't think we have. We just know that we darshan from Gzeira Shava that it's specifically from David Yeshua ben Nun and not from the time of Shushan. Okay, I think we'll stop here for tonight. And we'll see about continuing next week. If you can give me feedback by email about how it went tonight, then we can change things if things need changing, or fix things if need fixing, or do whatever is necessary in order to make this work better. So I appreciate it very much. Anytime, have a good night, and Yirtzeh Hashem, we should learn further.